Hi guys, welcome to another video. So today I'll try my best to explain how I normally set up an online test. So you'll probably wonder, for example, how do I give my students random questions in an online test? How do I set up question pools to use as random questions? How do I create randomized question sets from pools when building a test? And how do I add another question set to the test I am building? How do I change the point or mark allocation? And what should my test settings look like? And how do I make my test live? Okay, so in other words, how do you preview your test as well before you obviously take it live? Okay, so let's have a look at what the end result should look like. So for example, this is a report that's been downloaded from Blackboard, where I've already set up a test and the students wrote the test. And these are the different questions. If you look at this here, at this column D, you'll see that there's a question ID 1. So that's how Blackboard randomized the question for each user or each student. So you'll see that each student here received a totally different question 1. You'll see that not one student received the same question. Now obviously you need to have a question pool large enough to allow for this. So if, for example, you've got 20 students in your class, you'll obviously need to have more or less 30 questions for a specific question type. You can't have 10 questions if you're 10 questions for your typical question 1. Or for your first question set, you can't have just 10 questions in there and expect all the students to get different questions. So you need to make sure, my rule of thumb is basically, if you've got let's say 20 students, then you need to set up at least 40 questions for that question set. Let's say whether it's true or false or multiple choice and so on. So that deals with the pools, but in essence you want to give your students randomized questions. So why? Obviously to prevent them from copying from each other or sitting in groups maybe and completing the test. So this in essence will prevent them from copying, and it will make the test more fair. Okay, so we'll get to this, how to download this question or randomized questions. There's two different ones. So you'll see, if I go sideways, let's go to question number 2. So you'll see again, for question ID number 2, let's just get rid of these. So you'll see again question ID 2. So that's the second question they received. So here they all received different questions as well. Okay, so not one student received the same question, and I can see what each question was exactly, and also what the student answered, whether he answered true or false, or which multiple choice answer he gave. Okay, so that becomes useful during audits. Okay, so let's move on to, where do you start? Okay, so the first thing you need to start off with is a template. Obviously, if you're using responders, which I strongly advise you do, you'd normally have a template file, so to speak, and you'd set up your question types in that Word file. So I've got 3 of them here. So you'll see the first one here deals with a fill-in question type. So for example, this will be the format normally. So you'll type in type : space F, and thereafter you'll type the question. One, it can be bulleted, for example. You can use your bullet functions. I've used this one, and it automatically adds the tab in there, and then you simply add your question or type your question, and you give it the different answers or probable answers or versions of the same answer. So with the fill-in question type, for example, who is known as the father of television? Here you'll obviously need to more or less think of how your students will answer this and what you will accept as the answer. So for example, Vladimir would be an answer, or Vladimir with his surname, or Vladimir with his middle name and his surname, or you could even go on further and maybe use small letters. It all depends on you. So this is your answer. So there's no need to place a star next to your A dot tab and your answers, or so there's no need to place a star indicating all these answers are correct. So please take note of that. So another question here is, for example, who is known for SpaceX? So again, all these answers are acceptable, or are the acceptable versions of the answer. All right, so this is one question type that you might find useful. So this is where the students literally have to type in Blackboard what the answer is. So they'll have to type in Vladimir as their answer. So there's no, they'll only receive this part of the question. Who is known as the father of television? They won't receive anything else. Okay, so let's move on to another type, which is multiple choice. So again, here the format stays the same. Again, it's bulleted, but here now with multiple choice, it depends on how many options you want to give them or choices you want to give them. I normally give them 3 options, and then again the format exactly the same, except here you have to add a star next to the correct answer. So you have to add a star next to the correct answer. So if I want to make it B, that will be the correct answer. Okay, but obviously that is not the correct answer, so I need to change that back. Okay, then there's just another example here. So another thing, if you're using responders, you can try and import your questions or formulas from the equation writer, but in my case it doesn't work. So it doesn't copy the formula as a math type text or font. So what you'll have to do is you'll either have to create the formula and then copy it as an image and paste that into your ABC options here. So in other words, you'll have to use an image to display formulas if you plan to do that in a multiple choice question. All right, so that's enough said about the multiple choice. Then the second, or the third type rather, would be the well-known true and false question. So again, the format stays the same. Again, here you need to make sure that you place a star next to the correct option, whether it be true or false. Okay, so there's nothing to it here. So what you need to make sure of is you need to make sure when you set up these questions that you try to randomize the questions within your Word file, so that you don't end up creating the same question over and over. So it does take some effort to make sure that you're not repeating any question. I know many would like just to change, for example, a figure. If you've got a simple calculation question, for example, in the fill-in questions. So you might change one digit and you'll give a different answer. That's fine, you can do that. But don't make sure that you don't end up creating the same question over and over. Try to mix it up. Okay, so now you've got your question set up in Word. So what's next? So you need to now import these questions into Blackboard as a pool, and from there on you'll start creating or building your test. Okay, so let's go to responders, but before we do, I just want to touch on the approach you can follow. So you'll see from my 3 Word files, I've created 3 files showing different types of questions. So the one file is true and false, the other one is multiple choice, and the other one is fill in. So I would strongly advise that you do it maybe that way, because what it does, it helps you to also allocate marks. So for example, your multiple choice questions might be a little bit more difficult than your true and false questions, so you might allocate a 2-point mark or 2 points to one question, and for a true and false question you might just award them 1 point or 1 mark. And maybe for your fill-in questions you might award them 3 marks if it's, for example, a calculation where they need to give you the final answer. Okay, so it helps when you've got the questions divided, but there are ways around it if you want to combine all your questions in one file. Okay, so but it just for admin purposes, it's, in my view, it's much better to have your different question types separated. And then what I do is I also separate the question types per unit or per chapter. So what I'll do is I'll say chapter 1, true and false questions. Chapter 1, multiple choice questions. Chapter 1, calculation or fill-in questions. So it all depends on you, what works best for you. In my view, this works better because it helps you to allocate the marks better. But you're welcome to use whatever you feel is best for you, your subject. Okay, let's move on to responders and let's get these 3 files uploaded. Okay, so I'm just going to close them. Or let's not. Okay, so let's so I've got responders open. So how do you import your files in responders? So first of all, it depends on the learning management system you're obviously using. In this case, we're using Blackboard here, and not Desire to Learn. So you'll click Blackboard, make sure that your current personality is Blackboard, and then go to import questions. Now, if you haven't set up a server yet, there is a way to do that. That's something for another video, but it's not too difficult. You can ask your IT services department to help you with that as well. All right, so let's upload these 3 files I've set up. Okay, so first of all, you need to make sure that the file format. Now, those 3 files I've set up, they're DOCX files, meaning it's a Microsoft 2007 and above and beyond file. So it's the latest file type for Word. So make sure that you use the correct file type, a DOCX file. And then you need to you need to browse this file that you need to upload. So let's go and browse those 3 files. So we're going to create a dummy test. So here I've got the first one, Let's see, it's the fill-in question. I've just abbreviated as FI. I'm just going to copy the name so that I can use that name later on. So I'm going to select that file, open it. Then I'm going to use the create new document named, paste. Okay, so I've got that FI online dummy test, and it's going to be an exam. It's fine, it's not a survey. That you leave unticked, and then you click preview to preview. So the system will check for any errors and also questions you might have repeated. So don't worry if you get a warning here that states, for example, if you've used the same question, for example, which one of the following is incorrect, or which, if you've used that word which, it's going to highlight that you've used that phrasing of the question numerous times in the file. So it's going to highlight that. So that might end, that it might give you a warning on that. Okay, so who is known? Okay, so we see there are two questions there. So we're okay with that. And then we simply click finish. And it says file save. You click OK. And it will take you, or responders will take you to the preview. So what I normally do is here, I just preview the first question. So this is how your file will preview. Who is known as the father of television, and that's the space for the answer. So then I'll close that, and then I'll move to publish and review, the publish and review tab, and then I'll go to publish. Then I'll go to the publish wizard, and we'll publish this to this server TUT Blackboard that has already been set up. So you can set up that as well in the edit settings. You can use this here to edit that, give it a description, put in your username that you use in Blackboard and your password for Blackboard, and you click OK. Okay, so this has all been set up before. So I want to publish to a single course, yes, and so I'll simply click next here. Okay, then from the course, choose the course to publish. I'll choose my course I want to publish to, and I'll say I want to create a new pool. Okay, the standard settings here you leave as is, and you click next. So now your questions will be uploaded to Blackboard. Okay, so you'll make sure that you see that your uploading completed successfully, your upload completed successfully, and then you can click finish. Okay, so now you obviously don't want to stop there. You need to import the other three files as well. So you'll go to the start, you'll go to import questions, you'll go to Word, you'll go to browse. Now let's import the multiple choice questions. We'll click preview. And we'll click finish. We'll say OK. Then you can preview your question again. Then we'll go to preview and publish, publish wizard, publish to a single course, next. Got the wrong one there. Then we'll say create a pool and next. and it's completed successfully. And let's click finish. Again to your start tab, import questions, docx file, browse my true and false questions. Give it a name, preview, and click finish. Okay, obviously I'm going a bit quick here, but you'll obviously have to check your warnings. Okay, and check your preview questions here. Okay, so you'll see that's still okay. Then you'll go to preview and publish, the preview and publish tab, publish wizard, publish to a single course, next. Select the course. Say that you want to create a pool and click next. Okay, so now you've completed your the uploading of your questions. Now you can click finish. So now you're done with responders. So you at this stage you can close responders. Now let's move on to Blackboard. Okay, so now we're on Blackboard. So what's the first thing you need to do here? So you can't simply just create an assessment under your content area. Now you first need to go to your control panel or your course management tab, and then you'll go to your let's see, I think it's course tools. Yes, so it's course tools. So under course tools you'll go to tests, surveys and pools. Okay, so you'll go to tests, surveys and pools, and from here on you'll select tests, okay, then you'll obviously click build a test, and we'll call this online dummy test. I'm just going to give it a new date. Okay, and then you can give it the students a description or the test a description here. You can maybe say for or you can leave the description open at this stage, it doesn't matter, but you can give a description, for example, covers chapter 1 and chapter 2, for example, just a short description. Then here you can post the instructions, and you'll simply click submit. Okay, so here is where you'll start building your test under the test canvas. Okay, so this is what you'll see now, a short description, no instructions at this stage, and you'll say create either a question set or create a random block. So what's the difference between these two? So a question set allows you to set up different questions or question sets, and it also includes tests, past tests you've done on Blackboard. However, if you're using random blocks, it will only include the pools that you've uploaded or that you've created in Blackboard. So it will not include tests that you've set up or exams that you've uploaded on Blackboard. Okay, so but we're here to discuss question sets, which is the better option to choose here. So you'll click create question set. Okay, so then here you'll see on this in the side of this side tab or sidebar under pools, you'll see the three Word files we uploaded via responders. Okay, so and if we had some tests here, you'd see, okay, we have a test here already uploaded as well. So you could have, if you had, for example, if you've set up tests now over 5 years, then you could simply just click one of the past tests you've set up already. So there's no need for you to create or recreate the question sets you've already done so in the past. But in my case, in this subject, that hasn't been done. Okay, so I have to select. So I can either do it via question type or via the pools that I've uploaded. Okay, so in my case, I'm gonna the first question set. So don't go and select all three of them. I want to create a question set where students will receive only true and false questions, for example. Let's do true and false as the first one. Okay, it will display all the questions, so you obviously need to select. And if there's more than, for example, 20 questions, it's not gonna show you all of the questions. Then you need to select here the next page, and then select all the questions again, because you want to add all these true and false questions to that question set, the question set number 1 that you're creating. Okay, so once you've done that, you need to click submit. So I've selected all 4. Let's click submit here, and you'll see Blackboard has now added my first question set. Okay, so take note now of the points. So we'll get to that here on the right hand side corner, but let's look at the number of random questions we want to give students. So we want to give students, let's say 2. No, let's keep it as 1. But if you had, for example, if you imported 20 questions, you could have selected you wanna give each student 5 random questions out of the 20 questions. But seeing that we only have 4, let's give each student 1 random question. So if you have 4 students in this case with the 4 questions, then each of them will receive a different question. So if you have 4 students and you have the 4 questions for question set 1, it means that all 4 students will receive a different question. Okay, then you click submit, and then you can also view the questions here just to check. And now I want to change the points. So I want to make my true and false questions, I want to award them 1 mark. Okay, and it will say points updated. So now the problem arises, how do I add more question sets? So the simple method is to just simply go back to reuse question tab, then go to create question set again. Now we can click the multiple choice questions. And we select all of them, just maximize this window and make sure that you've selected all, and by clicking the next page, if there's more than about 10 or 20 questions, make sure that you've selected all of them, then again click submit. So again, we've got 4 questions. So now we've got question set 2. We've got question set number 2. We've got question set number 1, which is true and false, and question set number 2, which is I believe, let's check and make sure, it's multiple choice. So again, if you had 20 questions, you could have changed it to 5 random questions. Out of the 20 questions, students will receive 5 random. But in this case, out of this question set, the students will only receive one question. So one question they will receive, and it will be a random question. So if you had 4 students, because I have 4 questions, it means that 4 out of the 4 students, each and every one of them will receive a random question if I put a 1 there, because they're only going to receive 1 out of the 4 questions, and there's only 4 students, hence all of them will receive a different question. So again, I'm going to change the point allocation to 1, and that one is set now. Now let's do the fill-in question. So again, you'll go to the top tab and say create question set, and now we'll select the fill-in folder or file, and again we'll select all the questions. Make sure that you've selected all of them. If there's a page, another page here, make sure that you go to that page and also click all, or just click show all, and then you simply click select all. Okay, so we've done that. So now that will be our 3rd question set, and you'll see it's been set up. So again, we've only got 2 questions here. So in our case, in our example, we've got 4 students. So in this case, 2 of the students will receive the same question. Okay, so again, 1 question out of this pool of 2 questions, and we want to change the points to 1 point. And now we've got our 3 question sets set up. So the reason why this is much better than, for example, random block, is that you decide out of the true and false questions, out of the multiple choice questions, out of the fill-in questions, how many of those different question types the students will receive. Now the difference is if, for example, you've chosen a random block and you've combined all 3 those files with the multiple choice, with the fill-in and the true and false question, you've combined all of that into one file, and you went and you've created a question set or a random block, and you've created that. What will happen is, let's do that. If you create a random block, we'll see I've got all 3 of them. So now I'm going to select all 3 of them. So you can do this, but I'm going to tell you just now why it's going to be a bit different. Okay, it's not going to work at this stage. I need to have a file that has all 3 of the questions, all 3 of the questions in one file. Okay, so but normally this is how you would upload a block as well, and it will only allow pool questions. So here you'll see, for example, your pools uploaded, and the combination of that, you'll have to separate the different questions via the question types. So you'll have to say in, let's say, where's true and false? True and false, and let's see, and then it will display your true and false questions. Okay, so you'll have to, you can do it either that way. In my case, the file only consists of true and false questions. But if you had the one file with all 3 of the different question types, you can extract the true and false questions from that one single file. But if you go and upload that entire file as a random block with the different questions on it as a random block, you'll see that it's going to cause a bit of problems. Let's see if I can do that here. Let's see, multiple choice, and we've got fill in the blank. Let's see if we can get all of them. Okay, yes. So it's so you'll see you'll have something similar to this. The 4 true and false questions, your multiple choice questions, and fill in the blank questions. So you'll have something like this, and then obviously you'll click submit, and then you'll see you have a random block now. A random block that consists of 10 questions, and the number of random questions you want to ask from that random block, let's say it be 2 questions. Okay, so the difference now is that what will happen is Blackboard will go and select any 2 random questions. So one student might receive 2 true and false questions, one student might receive 2 multiple choice questions, and one student might receive 2 fill-in questions. So that's what you want to prevent, and that's why you need to either separate separate the questions by using question sets. That just allows you a bit more a better format of a test, or gives you a better format of a test, and it prevents students from receiving only maybe true and false questions, or just a one type of question. So in this way, by using question sets, question set 1, which consisted of true and false questions, question set number 2, which consists of, I believe it was multiple choice, and then question set number 3, which consists of fill-in questions. So in this way, you ensure that all your students receive all the different types of questions that you want them to receive. All right, so let's just get rid of this block. We don't want that in our test. Okay, so now you have your test canvas, and you can make sure that your points per question is correct. And now you know for certain that all your students will receive random questions. Okay, and all of them will receive the 3 different types of questions you've set up. So that's done. Once you've done that, you can simply click OK, and your online dummy test with the date has been set up, and you're done here. So now you need to take this test live, or you need to prepare to take it live. So how do you do that? I've already created a tab on my menu bar here, being assessments. So you can simply add that by using this plus sign on Blackboard, and create a content area, and simply call it assessments, and make it available to users, or don't make it available just yet. But yeah, I've already done that. So let's go to assessments. So under this here, I'll create my online test folder. Okay, so let's create a content folder. So let's call it online tests. So, and you can give the students some instructions before, for example, before they click this folder, they should make sure that they've got internet connection, or stable internet connection, and you can maybe give them some more details on the instruction before they click or before they enter the folder. All right, so then permit users to view this content. We don't want that now. You can track the number of views. Yes, I'm not going to do that now. And I'll click submit. And I've got my online tests folder set up. So this is where I'm going to deploy or create my online tests. So under assessments, you'll go to tests, and you'll see the online dummy test we created or built under the course tools, where we selected tests, surveys and pools. So you have to go to your tab here or the normal content folder that you created, and then under that folder you go to assessments, and then you click. So let's just do that again in case you missed that. So you'll go to assessments. So we're under the online test folder, you'll see it there, assessments, online test. So I'm under that folder. So I'm not going to create a content, I'm going to create a assessment, and the assessment is a test. Okay, and we'll create it from this online dummy test we've created just now. Then click submit. Then let's look at the settings. What are the typical settings that you should take note of? Okay, so I normally show the test description to students before they begin the test, and open the test in a new window. I would strongly advise you against that. They should receive the test within Blackboard itself. It's much better that way. Then make available to students, not at this stage. Add, so you normally click a yes. Then add new announcement for this test. You can say yes. At this stage, I don't want to announce this to students, so I'm going to select no. It's a test, so you won't allow them multiple attempts. So force completion, that you should select. Set a timer, so you have to give them a time. So let's say in this case, give them 1 minute to complete those 3 questions. And auto submit should be on. So before the timer, or before the time expires, or just as the time expires, the test will be submitted automatically. So that has to be on. And then you need to display when should this test be displayed. So let's say, for example, it should be displayed from 7:01, it's today's date, and display it until, for example, if this is a 1 minute test, or let's say it was a 90-minute test, you would obviously allow them just a minute more. Or if, let's say, for example, it's a 30-minute test and they have to, then you'll display it until maybe 17:35. Okay, so just give them some allowance to display it 5 minutes later on for those who submit late. If you're using the a lab, for example, with computers, and you only want to allow students access via a password, you can do that. And you can also restrict it to a certain server. So in this case, we don't want to allow that. So where there's no restrictions. Then test availability exceptions. So you can exempt some users, which you don't have to do. Then set the due date. So make sure that you enter a due date. So in this case, let's make it 7:35. And then do not allow students to start the test if the due date has passed. So it's very important that you select that option. Then self-assessment options, include this test in the grade center score calculations. So in your case, that will be important for you to include that. However, because I don't want to do that now, I'm gonna deselect that button. So, but in your case, this box has to be ticked. Okay. Okay, then show the test results. So I normally just click after the due date. That's important, not after submission, so that students can't help each other as soon as they've finished the questions. they don't get the correct answers, and then help each other out. Okay, so after the due date, because why? Because you've selected that after the due date, no student can enter the test. So it's important that you give them the results after the due date. I normally don't select any of that. Then test presentation all at once, not one at a time, all at once. That's the best option. And then randomize, very important, randomize questions for each test attempt. Very important, that option. And that's your test options. Click submit, and there you'll see your test. Okay, so what do you do if you want to, for example, add some instructions to this test? So obviously you can just go to edit the test. Okay, if you want to edit the test, for example, if you want to add more questions, or if you want to change the number of randomized questions, you can still do that here. But let's say if you want to add some instructions, you'll go to edit the test options. Then you can add your instructions to the students here if you want to, or you could have done that when we created when we built the test. You can also add the instructions there. So you can change your options again here from this window. So I'll just cancel that. So there's two types. So the one is edit the test, is where you'll edit the question sets, how many randomized questions they should receive from each question set, and then edit the test options. So you can still edit that. Okay, so, and here obviously you'll have to click make available if you want to make it available to students. However, we don't want to do that just now. And also the folder is unavailable to students, so it won't show. But let's see if we make it available, what will happen. You'll see it becomes it will give it a bright color, and that shows that it is available to the students now. Okay, so let's click on the test. So this is how the test will appear to your students. They will receive a description and instructions if you've done that in the building of the test, and they'll receive the due date, and it will tell them the test will save and be submitted automatically. The test has a time limit of 1 minute, and so on. And then you'll simply click begin to begin the test. And again, you'll have some test information, and you'll have your questions laid out. So in this case, remember we stated that we wanted only one question per question set. So we've only received one question. So the first one being about Albert Einstein, and then which formula, and then the third question being who is known as the father of television, and so on, which is a fill-in question. And then obviously they'll have to click save and submit. So if you want to, we can just go back and say leave, and we can enter student mode. Then we'll go to assessments again, and you'll see that the students will also receive, okay, that folder is not available, so we first have to make that folder available. I just want to quickly show you . Let's just make that folder available. Come on. Okay. Now let's go to enter student mode. We'll go to assessments, go to our online tests, click on our online dummy test. Okay, and again, your students will click begin. And this is what they will see. They will see a tab showing them the number of the time for the test, whether it be seconds or minutes available. So they'll have to complete the test using this. So for example, that, and let's just say Elon. Okay, and then obviously you'll see it will save the answers, and I just want to leave it just to show you that it will automatically submit the questions. Time expired, so therefore my tutor submits it automatically for the student, and that's the end of the test, and you'll click OK. Okay, let's exit the preview. Okay, so now I just want to show you, let's just make that folder unavailable quickly. Okay, so I don't get any emails from students. Okay, let's go to another folder. I just want to show you, once your students have completed the test, how can you get a report from that. So let's do this one for this other subject. So you'll simply go to your, obviously you shouldn't be in student view, yeah? And you'll go to your grade center under your course management or control panel. You'll go to grade center, you'll go to tests, and here you'll see a list of your students, and within the columns you'll see the different tests they've done. Okay, so here's an online one, online test 1. So you'll simply click there on that drop down, and you'll click download results. You can also view statistics, column statistics on the averages and things like that. So this test was 60 questions, 60 possible points, and here's the averages, the median, and the average, and yes, and the variance and so on. Just a little bit more details around the test that was completed. But if you want to make sure that you've given all your students random questions, this is where you'll do it. Under that column, if I can just go back and show you again. So under the column of online test, or in your case the dummy test, after they've completed it, you'll select download results, and you can click tab, and by user or by user in question, by user and by question and user, it will simply list all the questions one user received. So it will be per user, and it will list all the questions that student or user received. Or you can just simply do it by user and only the valid attempts, and click download results. It has to be tabs. That will give you an Excel file. You'll see it's downloading here. So now I'm opening it, and it will show you the student number and the question ID and the different questions again what I showed you in the beginning. So here you can see each and every student received a different question 1. Okay, so that in essence is what question sets is all about, and how you go about creating an online test, creating question sets in Blackboard. I hope this has been a helpful video. Please like and subscribe for more videos like this, and if you have any comments, you're more than welcome to leave them. Thank you and have a good day.